Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Wisdom Wednesday for this week. So, this week, for our Wisdom Wednesday, we're talking about the goal of peace, and we're going to be talking about how we can keep it. So before we get started with any of that, remember with our Wisdom Wednesday, this is just a generalized spiritual discussion where I just choose a tool or a tip or a topic to talk about that's going to help us to work with the energies that we're currently working with for this week. And like I said, our topic is the goal of peace and how to keep it. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. So if you're interested in finding out more about me or my services, you can of course go visit my website, awakeningmiracles.org, or if you're interested in more content like this, or you want to see previous Wisdom Wednesdays, then you can go to my YouTube channel, which is also in the description of the video. So now we're going to go ahead and we're going to get started with today's discussion, the goal of peace. And I think that today's discussion is one of the most powerful spiritual tools that we can use. And it's not only in just our lives, it's how this goal can really begin to affect everything in our lives. So, how do we start this goal of peace? And what is the goal of peace anyway? Like, how do we really get to this? And so, the way that I like to explain the goal of peace. Hi, Mimi. Thanks for joining. Thanks for being here. So, the way that I like to explain the goal of peace is simply like this. The goal of peace means that we are putting all our energy, all of our focus on one singular thing, which is peace. Now, when you hear that, the mind may start to come up with a lot of different things about what peace means. Not only to you, but, definitions. Hey, Elaine, thanks for joining. Thanks for being here. And so we have to get really clear. The goal of peace does not just mean that everything just kind of falls away. It means everything is in divine order. It means all the peace, all the happiness, all the joy, is there. That's what the goal of peace is all about. It's not just, I think that we have this misconception about peace, that it's where, you sit down and you sit in front of, wherever you are, maybe reading a book, and, you're just sipping tea and everything's just, peace. That's not necessarily what peace is. I think we kind of put peace with perfection, and we need to kind of remove that. Because peace, like I said, peace doesn't necessarily fit our definition of perfection. Okay? Because we have a definition of perfection. We're like, oh, this is what perfection is. This is what peace should be. When you set the goal of peace, you're not setting the goal and saying, this is what I want to happen and this is how I want it to happen. That's not what you're doing. That's not the goal of peace. If you're setting the goal of peace and being like, okay, this is what I want to happen, this is how I want it to happen, you're not setting the goal of peace. What you're doing is you're playing, you can either call it come on God, come on source, however you really want to put that, come on angels, come on guides, and you're saying, here is my plan, here is what I want to happen, here is how I want it to happen, now make it work. That is not the goal of peace. Not at all. The goal of peace is simply to say, I set my goal of peace, which means I have no agenda. I only want the happiest, the most perfect outcome for everyone involved. Not only myself, but everyone involved. And this is why I think the goal of peace is so powerful, because it removes the ego mind from that intention. It says, oh, you know what? Instead of me getting the promotion, instead of me getting what I think I want or what I think that I need, I'm going to step back and I'm saying, Spirit, my goal is only for the happiest, most peaceful, greatest outcome for me and everyone else involved. And I don't know what that looks like or how that's going to manifest or how that's going to necessarily look. And that's really what the goal of peace is. It is a way for the ego to get out of the way. It's a way for you to let go of your commitment to a particular outcome of a situation or a relationship, whatever it may be. And if we're really honest, we're in relationship with anything, with everything, because everything is a relationship. We are in relationship with everything. And so the goal of peace is just so powerful. But the question is, okay, we've set the goal of peace. Now, how do we keep that goal? How do we keep ourselves focused purely on that one intention or that one goal? However we want to put that. You can either say, I set the intention for peace, or I set the goal of peace. When we say the intention or the goal, it's both, we're both really saying, I want this as the end result. This is the goal, or this is the intended result. So you can use either term. Either one is absolutely fine. So I set my goal as peace, or I set my intention as peace. Either one, absolutely fine. So then we move on to our next part. How do we keep our goal when everything seems to be going crazy and, outside of what we think peace is? And that is, once again, where we have to come back in and we have to check in. Okay? That's where we have to come in and we got to check in and be like, okay, am I attached to a particular outcome? And here's the thing. You can set the goal of peace. You can set the intention of peace as many times as you want. There is no limit to it. And just because maybe, you don't. Oh, hey, Trudy, thanks for joining. Thanks for being here. Maybe you're really set on the goal of peace and then you get in there and then you start getting attached to an outcome. And that's how you can start to notice if you are veering away from peace and veering more towards, what you want to happen, because you start to become more and more attached or more excited about what you think you want or how you think you want it. So number one is awareness. That is one way in which we can begin to keep that goal of peace, by becoming aware and saying, okay, when I came in here, my goal was peace, but now I'm starting to see my focus shift from I want the most peaceful outcome for everyone involved to I want this. I want this outcome. I want it to be this way. And if we start to find ourselves doing that, we have to stop, be willing to forgive ourselves, be willing to be like, okay, I had a little slip up. Absolutely fine. So I'm willing, since I had this slip up, to reset my goal. And you can reset it right then, right there. So our first step to keeping our goal of peace is awareness. Our second way that we can begin to keep the goal of peace going for us, regardless if we slip up or not, is to begin to, like I said, so it's awareness. And then from awareness, we have to go to commitment. Okay? Because we're really good in the first part being like, yeah, the goal of peace. Woohoo! Yeah! Exciting! And then we lose our commitment for it. We have to stay committed to that goal. So that's our second step to keeping the goal of peace. I want peace. Why do I want peace? Why do I want this? Why am I going to stay committed to this? Because peace means a perfect 10. That is what peace means, at least to me. It means a perfect 10 outcome for me and everyone else. And once again, this is our third step. I have to be willing to let go of everything I think I know about the situation. I have to be willing to surrender it all. Excuse me. And I know that's not always the easiest thing to do. I 100% understand it's not the easiest thing to do, because we do have agendas, because we do have ulterior motives, because there are things that we say that we want. And then we get really hung up on those things. And then as we get hung up on those things, then we start making that our goal. And then everything else kind of falls away. And then we're left with, well, it didn't work out the way that I wanted. I set the goal of peace and look what happened. Well, once again, if you set the goal of peace and it ended, happily for everyone, you not dictating what that means. You cannot dictate what the most peaceful outcome is because you do not know. And once again, I understand that is not an easy thing for the ego mind to hear. It says, I know what I need here. I know what I need and I know how it needs to be done. No one else knows this. I know it. Well, no, you only know it from your own ego perspective. You, within the ego mind, cannot see the whole entire past, nor can you see the whole entire future. You can't see it. And that's okay. That's why we set that goal of peace, because then we're putting the one who does know, we're putting them in charge. And the one who does know is spirit. You can call it spirit, you can call it your guides, you can call it the Christed consciousness, you can call it your inner being, you can call it the truth of who you are. Whatever you want to call it, you are putting that in charge. You are surrendering what you think and think you know about the situation, how it should come and how it should be. You're surrendering it all and saying, I do not know. So our first way of keeping our goal of peace is awareness. Our second way of keeping the goal of peace is staying committed to it. Our third way of keeping the goal of peace is surrender. Surrendering all that we think and think we know. And then our fourth way of keeping the goal of peace is choosing again. Okay, so like I said, maybe you're starting to get really attached and you're like, oh man, I really want this to happen and this is how I want it to happen. And you start to have that awareness. You start to come into that and you're like, ooh, you know what? Wait a minute. Let me choose again, because I am seeing this attachment. I am seeing where I am attaching to a particular outcome. So I've become aware of it. I am now recommitting myself to the goal of peace. I am surrendering what I think and think I know. And I am recommitting myself, or I am choosing again. I am choosing to reset my goal as the most peaceful outcome. And remember, peace, at least to me, means the happiest, most peaceful, best outcome, 10 out of 10 for everyone involved. And so that's something I've really started doing. And I always have personal parables. For any of you that have followed me for any amount of time, I always have a story. And the reason I always have a story about the tool that I tell you about is because I use them in my life, because spirituality is meant to be practical. It's not meant to be this woo-woo thing that's just nebulous and maybe you think about here, maybe you think about there. It can be used in daily life. If it's not practical, it's not spiritual. Okay? And that's what we have to remember. If it's not practical, it's not spiritual. So I remember when I first started using this tool and saying, okay, my goal is peace, and that's what I want. So when I first started that, let me tell you, I made the mistake of being like, okay, my goal is peace. This is what I want to happen. And sometimes I'd get like half of it, like it would kind of sort of happen. And then I'd be like, well, it kind of sort of happened. So I guess, thumbs up. And there was one particular day that I was like, okay, I am committed today. I am making my goal peace. Like, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make sure that I am committed to it all throughout the day. And so that is, well, hi, Kim. Thanks for joining. Thanks for being here. So that's when I said, okay, no matter where I go or what I do, I am setting the goal. And I really stumbled on this by accident because, like I said before, I was setting the intention or setting the goal of this is what I want. This is how I want it to happen. Well, what do you know? Oh, hi, Kenny. Thanks for joining. Thanks for being here. So what do you know? I just was like, okay, I'm going to the grocery store. My goal is peace. And then I added in there this little part, and this is where I stumbled in to kind of that surrender. I said, I am only here to be truly helpful. I don't have to know what to do or what to say because, once again, my words, you don't have to use them, because, or actually, it's the Course in Miracles words, but he who sent me will direct me. I will heal as he teaches me how to heal. And so I just walked into the store, and got what I needed to get, very calmly, very peacefully. Done. Came back out to the car. Went to the next place I had to go to. Actually, no, I'm sorry. I got into the car, set my goal of peace again, just by driving, and was like, okay, here we go. And what do you know? All of a sudden, there's like this, there's this, what is it? Not a car accident. It was just kind of like everyone was bunched up and like no one was moving. And I was like, oh, well, this isn't very peaceful. And then I thought, okay, whoa, 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 whoa. You're deciding what the driving should look like. You're trying to say this is what it should be and this is how it should be. You don't know how it should be. So I had to talk myself through that. And then I said, okay, I'm resetting this goal of peace. I reset my goal of peace. And, I start driving down the road. And then as I get to my next destination, I set the goal of peace before I go in. And as I'm setting the goal of peace, I start to walk in. And as I start to walk in, there seems to be some sort of disturbance. Like some people are arguing, and I'm kind of like, ooh, what is happening here? I am not someone who likes confrontation. I do not like it. It's not something I enjoy. But I was like, this is someplace I got to go into. So I walk in there and I'm just like, nope, my goal is peace. I don't know what that looks like. And like, let's go. And so I walk in there, and it was almost as if, because I set that goal and I didn't have any particular, like what I thought it should look like or how I thought it should be. Like I said, I was willing to surrender everything. All of a sudden, these two people stop arguing and they just shake hands. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. And, I start walking in and I get, the thing that I need. And the person in front of me pays for me. And I was like, oh, that's so nice. Thank you so much. And as I'm leaving, someone just happens to hold the door for me. And I was like, thank you so much. Like, that's super nice. And, I get it back into the car. Oh, that was a beautiful experience. Thank you so much. Thanking the angels, thanking my guides, thanking, the one who knows. And, thanking my inner being, if you will, being in that state of gratitude, and then, setting that goal of peace again. And as I drive to the next place, which was to the mechanic shop, it was to Jiffy Lube. Yeah, that's where it was. So I went to Jiffy Lube because there was a part that we needed. And I was like, okay. So I go in there and I'm like, hi, I'm here for the part. And they're like, oh my God, go right in, go have a seat. So I'm sitting down. And then all I hear is mother, and just this person screaming this at the top of their lungs. And I was like, ooh, okay. And I was like, okay, so automatically fear's starting to rise up because someone's yelling and they are pissed. And I mean, just like livid. And I'm like, ooh, okay, so my fear's starting to rise. What do I need to do? Okay, my goal is peace. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to handle this. That's not my job. Remember, we say that healer's prayer. I am only here to be truly helpful. I don't have to know what to do or what to say because he who sent me will direct me. I will heal as he teaches me how to heal. So then I take that step back, I'm just like, hey, spirit, like this is on you. And I'm resetting that goal as peace. I don't know what that looks like. I'm surrendering what I think. And then, he comes up to me and he's like, I'm so sorry. My apologies for hearing me yell and scream and curse away. But the part that, they need, or for your car, well, they sent it back. And it's not here. And, it was on the desk and it was this and it was this. And I was like, okay, well, it's not that big of a deal. He's like, no, it'll be here. Like, if you don't mind, I've already told the person to come back. It's going to take them 30 minutes to get back here. And I said, okay, like 30 minutes, not a big deal. Resetting my goal of peace. It's not like I didn't have my phones. I had things, to listen to or watch if I wanted to. So I was like, okay, totally fine. And then Um, he comes, comes back and he's like, hey, the part's here. It's going to take me less than 10 minutes to put it in. I said, okay, totally fine. No worries. And, goal is peace. So I'm still feeling peaceful, still feeling good. And he comes back and he's like, basically like, take out your headphones. And I was like, oh yeah. I was like, are you done? I was like, I feel like that was a little less than 10 minutes. He goes, well, and I was like, oh, there's a well. But I had to stop myself because automatically here goes ego brain. Oh God, they're saying, well, that means this, that means this. And I said, okay, my goal is peace. And I said, okay, what's going on? And he was like, well, I was going to put it in, but I can't because we need this other part to put it in. He's like, but what I want to tell you is, he's like, number one, because of the inconvenience of you coming here and, them sending the part away, which they were not supposed to. And then, me finding this other problem, I'm going to go ahead. And he's like, all I'm going to have you pay for is the part. He goes, and the part is $50. He goes, I'm going to do the labor for free. And, that's all you have to pay for it is the part. He's like, my sincere apologies. I'm so sorry. And I was like, you know what? Just totally on. I thank you so much for being honest. And I thank you, I was just thanking him. Thank you so much for being honest. Thank you so much for being, so generous. And so that's what the goal of peace can do. So my goal being peace, perfect 10 for everyone involved. Perfect 10 for me, perfect 10 for, the person, just perfect 10s across the board. I get this put into, my car that we need. And, the other thing is, it's not an emergency. Like, that's what he said. He's like, it's not an emergency. It's not a terrible thing. Like, you don't need to necessarily worry about it. He goes, but, and your car is safe to drive, so don't worry. So I was like, this is great. Works out for everyone. So that's why I think the goal of peace is so important. May I please have oh, I'm not doing readings, Kim. This is just a spiritual discussion. So, that is really why I think the goal of peace is so important. Set that goal before you do or go anywhere. And remembering that the goal of peace doesn't mean that you know what's going to happen or how it's going to happen. It just means that you have put your mind to focus on that inner being, that inner spirit. You're focusing on the kindness, the goodness, the grace, the, whatever it is you want to call it. You are focusing on, that's the goal. The goal isn't to get, I didn't say that I wanted the part, that I wanted this gentleman to put the part in. I didn't say that I wanted, this thing to happen or that thing to happen. I just want, people paid for things. I didn't do anything. Those people shook hands. I didn't do anything. The mechanic, the part got sent back. I didn't do anything. I didn't say, well, I'm going to need you to get this fixed. I just said, okay. So that's why I think it's so important. So remember, we set the goal of peace. How do we keep the goal of peace? One, awareness. If we start to see ourselves, if we start to have fear come up, if we start to have anxiety come up, if we start to become attached to a particular outcome, okay, we can see it, we can recognize it. And then what can we do? So we've become aware of it. Now, after that awareness, or from that awareness, we have to then, I guess we could call this 2 or 1A. We have to be willing to forgive ourselves, like for doing that. And then after we do that, then after the awareness, after the forgiveness, then we can move back into that surrender. We can move back into, setting that goal again and being like, okay, or setting that commitment again. So 1, awareness, 2, commitment, 3, surrender, 4, resetting that goal. So commitment, that's important, surrender, and then resetting the goal. That is how we set the goal of peace, and then we can begin to keep it. Like I said, it took me practice and a lot of awareness where I had to see that I was making the goal of peace what I thought it should be, instead of just letting it be exactly what it was. Okay, so that is all for today. I thank you for joining me. I thank you for being here, and have a beautiful rest of your Wednesday evening as you start to set the goal of peace.